So welcome to this panel session for the Hygiene Bank. Thank you for watching, one which I feel you'll find truly enlightening. My name is Edgar Penollar. I'm the acting CEO of the Hygiene Bank. The Hygiene Bank is a grassroots community initiative, and it's our belief that it's not a privilege to feel clean and that we all deserve a life of dignity. We are holding our first ever National Hygiene Week in the UK. This is to shine a light on the hidden crisis that is hygiene poverty. Our aims are to reach as many people as possible, just to help raise awareness and discuss solutions on how we can solve this problem together. This panel is to look at discussion around poverty on a local level with the Hygiene Bank's community partners. The people who are speaking on this panel are from organizations who cover issues ranging from child poverty to education to domestic violence. The Hygiene Bank has had the honor to work with these organizations and wanted to gather strategic minds to help raise awareness that hygiene poverty is close to home here in the UK. So if I can start by introducing our panel. So Sophia Parker is the Chief Executive of Little Village. Sophia set up Little Village and continued to guide its growth based on their vision and mission. In fact, Little Village was one of the first baby banks that the Hygiene Bank started providing products to. Sophia has worked in and around the issues of poverty and inequality for over 20 years and has a track record of designing innovative community-based solutions to social challenges. So welcome, Sophia. We also have Lorraine Schultz, who's the project manager for the Midway Food Bank. The Midway Food Bank is part of the UK-wide Trussell Trust Food Bank network, and Lorraine has been working there for 2 years. In that time, she has seen the increase in the need for Midway to support its local community, especially now during the COVID-19 crisis. She is passionate about seeing an end to food poverty and hopes for a society where everyone can have the resources they need to purchase their own food. Welcome, Lorraine. Nilesh Dosa is the founder of I Can, You Can Too. He's a chartered accountant, like myself actually, with over a 15-year career spanning assurance, banking, and consulting, and has received multiple awards for his grassroots works in the community and education. Though a seasoned financial professional, Nilesh's passion lies in people, and particularly children and youth. His drive to facilitate social mobility and level the playing field for young people led to the creation of I Can, You Can Too in 2016. I Can, You Can Too was featured globally by Forbes.com in 2019 and is the recipient of the International EY Award for Strengthening Community. Nilesh is also an advocate of flexible working, managing his busy schedule around a neurodegenerative disease, a condition. He currently works part-time at EY, balancing both his corporate career and passion in education and the community. Welcome, Nilesh. And finally, we have Lisa Crosby. Lisa is Executive Director, Education for Star Academies, which is the highest performing multi-academy trust in the country for the last 2 consecutive years. Over 80% of the schools are judged as outstanding by Ofsted, and all are situated in some of the most deprived areas in the country. Lisa is passionate about the power of education and transforming children's lives, particularly for those less privileged than others. Lisa joined Star Academies from a multi-academy trust where she was the Chief Education Officer, responsible for transforming the education of over 12,000 pupils from areas of high deprivation across the primary, secondary, and further education phases. Under her leadership, 95% of schools were judged as good by Ofsted compared to 13% prior to the conversion 3 years earlier. Prior to this, Lisa was the Inspector Advisor for Service Children's Education, which is an agency for the Ministry of Defense that serves children of service personnel. She was responsible for securing high personal and academic achievements across all secondary and middle school worldwide. 100% of schools were judged as good or outstanding. Outcomes were consistently well above national averages, despite high pupil mobility. And Lisa is also a lead Ofsted inspector in the Northwest. So welcome, Lisa. So those are our panelists. Welcome to each and every one of them. So as we say, this is all about how hygiene poverty is close to home at a local level. Safa, if I could start with yourself, if you could tell us about your organization, how were you delivering your services before COVID-19, and how are you delivering them now?
Okay, well, it's great to be here. Thank you very much for that introduction. It's lovely to be part of such a great panel. Yes, I'm Sophia, and I set up and run an organisation called Little Village. We are like a food bank, but for baby clothes and toys and equipment. We support families across the whole of London. We've got now three hubs and a warehouse, but we support families from across the whole of the capital with everything they might need, from cots through to socks and everything in between. And our dream really is that every child in the capital has the things that they need to thrive. And what we're trying to create with Little Village, as the name suggests, is an opportunity for every parent in the capital to be part of that. So all the items we pass on to the families we support are gifted with love by members of the local community, where their children have grown out of those clothes. We pass them on, we package them up and pass them on. And our tagline is a gift from one family to another, and that's really what we stand for. We are guided in everything we do by our values, which are love, solidarity, thriving, and sustainability. And I hope, and if you were to speak to any of the families we've supported, that they would tell you that not only have we helped in terms of the practical stuff we provided, but we've also been a source of support and a community that they are part of. So you had a question about how did we operate before coronavirus and how are we doing it now? The answer is quite differently. Before coronavirus, our entire model was based around drop-in sessions where families would be invited in to come and choose the items that they want. That was something that's very important to us. I think part of having dignity is having choice over the things that you have for your child. We all like to dress our babies in different ways, different types of cute, and so it was very, very important to us that families had that choice if they were able to come in. So they would choose the items. The other benefit of those drop-in sessions is we were able to bring other support around. Not only could families meet each other and have a chat, have a sit down, have a cup of tea, talk to volunteers and each other, we were also able to offer other support at those drop-in sessions. So for example, we had volunteers who were trained with citizens advice to give support around debt, housing, and benefits, those sorts of issues, so you could get help there. And the other thing we also did is we made sure that families who came to get support felt very much welcome, not only as coming to get stuff, but also being able to give back. So whether that is bringing items back when they finish with it for other families to use, or indeed coming to volunteer with us. And I'm very proud that now 1 in 8 of our volunteers is a parent we've supported, and 1 in 5 of our paid staff is a parent we've supported. So that kind of cycle, that community of kindness, is really, really at the heart of what we do. There are times in life when we need help, all of us, and there's also times in life when we're able to offer help. And I hope Little Village is a community where everyone feels able to do both. Obviously, then lockdown happened in mid-March, and we had this kind of terrifying 2 weeks where we looked at each other and said, how on earth are we going to do this? We are not going to stop supporting families. We are very, very concerned about the impact that the lockdown was going to have on the kinds of families that we support. But equally, it was clear to us that our kind of operational model as it stood, with the kind of built around these very sociable drop-in sessions, was not feasible. So within 2 weeks, we basically turned our operating model on its head. We secured a wholesale partner that we've been working with throughout lockdown, throughout the pandemic, called eShow, who've been a completely brilliant partner and a lifesaver. We organised a whole new model of deliveries and pickups. We developed a new system of community drop-off points where people could donate to us. continue to donate items to us. We secured a pro bono warehouse. We set up a phone banking system so we could continue to reach out to families and have a chat with them, see how they're doing on the phone. So it was a pretty intense time. I hope I've given you a flavour of that. But the outcome of that is that since lockdown, what we've been doing is continuing to deliver those essentials to the families that need them. But instead of asking and inviting families to come and choose, we have been bundling those things up and getting them out to the families that need them, delivered safely and securely directly to their doorstep. In terms of the things we're giving out, as well as our usual stuff, the baby clothes, the toys, the equipment, we have also been offering an emergency service on hygiene products, which is probably relevant for people listening to this session as well. So we've been offering, for every member in the household, we put together a hygiene bundle. So for the mothers and teenage girls, that would include period products, but also showers, shower gel, toothpaste, the essentials, and a month's supply of that. We have baby packs, which include all of that stuff, plus nappies and wipes. And so that has been a very important part of, I guess, trying to make sure that, as well as the clothing and the bedding, we're also making sure that people have got those basic products which enable them to stay clean and hygienic as well. But it's been quite an intense time, put it that way.
No, I feel your pain. I think it's been the same. I really do. Thank you for that. I mean, whilst you're on, let's ask the second question as well. How has the demand increased for your services through the pandemic? How have you seen that?
Yeah, well, actually, I was just running the numbers we've got a board meeting coming up in a couple of weeks, so hot off the press, I can tell you. So demand, I mean, we knew that demand would go up. Obviously, we planned for that. When we initially did the modelling back in March, we sort of imagined a sort of spike and then a sort of levelling off. And pretty quickly, by the end of April, we were like, that's not going to be how this plays out. I think there's going to be a long tail to this pandemic. So once the kind of public health crisis eased, what we're seeing, of course, is the economic sort of aftershock, which I think is going to go on for much, much longer. So we are now planning a sustained increase in demand. We've secured the funds to be able to continue our emergency response until at least the middle of next year. And I suspect we're going to need to fundraise to go beyond that. In terms of demand, so just to give you a comparator, in 2019, we supported 3,000 children across the capital. Since the middle of March this year, we have supported 8,607 children. So it is a dramatic increase in need. And of those children, 38% of them are living in households who are suffering from either hardship or unemployment as a direct result of COVID. 35% of them are homeless or in temporary accommodation. 26% of them have parents who have no recourse to public funds, so they're living on less than 40 quid a week. So this is these are scary numbers for us. And what I think I find deeply concerning is they're showing no sign of slowing down. And of course, there are some other things coming down the line that are giving us cause for concern as well. We know that the furlough scheme coming to an end in October is likely to create a massive spike of unemployment and further financial difficulty for families who are already living on the edge, right? Before COVID hit, the families we're supporting have had no cushion beforehand. And so when something like a reduction in hours happens or a loss of job, the impact can be profound and very immediate. So we're pretty worried about what's going to happen this autumn as well.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Lisa, Sophia. That is, some of those stats is just sobering to hear, really. Lorraine, if we could turn you to yourself, how about the Midway Food Bank? Tell us about your services, what you saw in terms of your the processes and before the COVID-19, and how you're delivering them now. Sorry, let me unmute you. I'm clicking on unmute. I'm really sorry. Hold
I think we're good.
on. Oh, yep, there we go. Yep.
Okay, thanks ever so much. Yeah, it's great to be part of such a good panel, and many of our issues overlap with Sophia's as well. So our organisation is Midway Food Bank. We're based in Midway, which is a unitary authority next door to the Kent local authority. We're part of the Trussell Trust, which is a nationwide network of food banks. There are 428 food banks across the UK, and we're one of those. What we do is we provide 3 meals a day for 3 days, which is sort of emergency food provision for people who are in crisis. And within that food package, we also offer toiletries, which is relevant, and cleaning products, as well as baby milk, nappies, wipes, like Sophia was saying as well. So we've been hugely grateful to the Hygiene Bank who were supporting us prior to COVID, but have just given us immense support locally. So we're very grateful for that. The way that our food bank works as part of the Trussell Trust network is we have a voucher system. So people, this has all changed. Everything's changed, hasn't it, in our new kind of world. So originally people could have about 3 vouchers in 6 months. There are no fixed rules on it. We'd upped that to about 5 vouchers in 6 months, and that was because of the issues that there were with universal credit, whereby people often have to wait 5 to 6 weeks for their first payment of benefits. Since COVID, really the numbers have sort of gone out of the window, but the reason why I'm kind of passionate about the Trussell Trust model is because we don't want people to become dependent on food banks. We believe that everybody should have the dignity to be able to purchase their own food and support their own families. And the reason why the voucher system is important is because people get wraparound care from the agencies that they get the vouchers from. So we work with about 150 agencies across Midway, including schools and churches and other charities, many government and council agencies, public health teams, school nurses. So they can all issue our vouchers to their clients, but we also ensure that they know their clients well and that they're able to give them wraparound care, which will hopefully mean that they don't have to keep coming back to a food bank. So it's about a lot more than food, as the Trussell Trust would say. And what that looked like before COVID was that we had 8 food bank centres around our Midway towns. They were mainly based in churches. Trussell Trust and Midway Food Bank have a Christian foundation, but we are open to all those of other faiths and none, and our volunteers come from all backgrounds, and our clients are welcome, and we're very inclusive like that. So our 8 food banks were personed by very, very kind volunteers, 150 or so of them as well around the towns, but 60% of our volunteers are over 60 and 40% of our volunteers are over 70. So when lockdown came, we continued our food banks for a little while, and then we decided that to protect them and to protect our clients in Midway, obviously all of whom kind of are vulnerable because they're hungry. We decided to close our centres, and a bit like Sophia was saying, we looked at each other and said, let's do this differently. And if you'd have said to me a year ago, we'd be running a complete delivery service, currently averaging about 70 deliveries a week, I would have wondered how on earth that was possible. However, we did that. Initially, it was averaging around 90 to 100 deliveries a week, and we were very ably assisted by amazing corporate organisations like British Gas. So they turned up with 2 vans, 2 helpers every single day and delivered all of our parcels out around the community. We've had local housing organisations, other businesses. Currently we've got our Citizens Advice. They're delivering all the parcels out today and have been for weeks for us. And I have to say that despite the tragedies and the difficulties, the kindness that we've seen amongst partners and the public has been completely overwhelming at times. And it's been a privilege to be part of that. So currently that's what we look like. We're just running a delivery service out to people. We intend, I think, to continue with that for now. We're having to take out a larger warehouse space just because of the huge increases in figures. And like Sophia, we've seen such increases. Our figures in April, so in 2019, we supported about 494 people. And in 2020, in April, that was 1,500 people. So that's about a 204% increase. That went down in May to a 90% increase and is currently running around a 60% increase in usage on last year. But just to note, we'd already seen between 2018 and 2019 quite significant increases in food bank usage, and that fitted with the national picture as well. So we have some really ongoing concerns. Like Sophia said, I don't think there's going to be any end to any of this. And many of our issues are the same as the baby bank, with people losing their jobs. We are increasingly getting phone calls from people who say, I've never used a food bank before, I'm embarrassed, how does this work? Does anybody need to know that I'm using it? Just really difficult situations that people have very suddenly found themselves in.
Thank you, Lorraine. I mean, again, I'm staggered by those numbers you just quoted. What, from nearly just under 500 to around 1,500. That is absolutely staggering. But thank you for that. Nilesh, now yours is a slightly different type of organization. So why don't you tell us about your organization and what happened because of COVID as well?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to sound like Sophia and Lorraine here, right? By thanking everybody and, having the opportunity to be, with you cool folks, talking a little bit about the work that we do. So thanks for the question, Edgar. So as you say, yeah, I suppose I'm a little bit, different in so much as, having grown up myself as the sort of son of migrants in a council estate in East London, and having done well at school academically, I suppose a seed was planted pretty early on in my career that actually academic success doesn't always equate to professional success. And that's because of the fact that, young people in certain neighborhoods, and perhaps, this is something that Lisa will identify with, you don't have the cultural capital, perhaps the career services aren't, for whatever reason, as sort of ramped up as perhaps sort of more privileged communities, etc., etc. And so I started I Can, You Can Too, based off the simple premise, with a simple message to young people to say, listen, folks, I grew up pretty poor, pretty non-privileged myself, but I've done okay, so why can't you? And was massively motivated by one particular incident where, a young Nigerian boy who I invited to be mentored to Canary Wharf said to me, will I be allowed to come to Canary Wharf, because I thought all black people were either security guards or canteen staff. And, being a dad myself, I found that narrative, completely unacceptable, that a young person who should have the chutzpah of, I'm going to change the world on my own, versus am I allowed to come to Canary Wharf, And that was really where I Can, You Can Too started, right? It was all about giving young people essentially three things. Firstly, real role models. So putting people in front of them that sort of looked like them, came from their backgrounds, who had been successful, to kind of say to them, you can do this thing too. Access was the second objective of I Can, You Can Too, right? So to give young people access to, Barclays in Canary Wharf, or a McKinsey's in the city, or a, Cambridge University or whatever. And essentially those two things, in my mind, would raise aspirations and break limiting beliefs. And then finally, once this young person was inspired, it was to teach them the skills and practically coach them what they would need to go on to do further education or enter the world of work. And, I'm super proud of what we do, in so much as, we've got young people at Cambridge, at Eton, at EY, at the Bank of England, that have gone into medicine. And we've got a whole bunch of, you know, pretty cool people that support us, from CEOs and surgeons to sort of sportsmen and women, and everything in between. And so that's a bit of a nutshell in terms of what I Can, You Can Too is. And, you know, when mid-March happened, if I'm honest, I think our desire to complete our academic program was absolutely there. And I suppose, you know, in comparison to what I've heard and what we've heard so far, it was a fairly easy change to take everything from face-to-face to virtual. But what we did do is we kind of said, rather than meeting our youngsters every fortnight for the remainder of the academic year, what we'll do is we'll meet them weekly, because effectively, I think we made an assumption that the young people would quite like to have a bunch of adults around them telling them that, you know, everything would be okay, and just to check in on them. And that definitely was the case, because obviously throughout COVID, not only did we have COVID, but the young people that I work with, and we work with, were massively affected by BLM. And then, of course, everything that happened with the results as well. So it was fantastic to be in touch with them. However, notwithstanding all of that, what I learned very, very quickly, and it's interesting that we've got Lorraine from Midway, you know, one of our young people, through some other work that I do, was in prison last year for robbery. And I remember having a conversation with this young lad, and I sort of joked with him, right? I'd been to visit him and I had a great relationship with him. So I sort of joked to him and said, dude, what's the robbery about? Where's the Ferrari, right? And his response was, Nilesh, this was never about Ferraris. It was about putting food on the table. And with the young people that I work with, and just to sort of reference my own upbringing again, I know times can be tough, right? But literally in that first couple of weeks in March, one of the young people that I work with, his 4-year-old brother died because of malnutrition. And a young girl called me to say, Nilesh, and she was so casual about it, like, you know, we've talked about pride and how does one ask for this type of help? But a young girl pretty casually rang me, you know, one day to say, Nilesh, can you sort me out some, you know, shower gel and some sanitary towels, because I can't afford them. So what that did is it planted a seed in my mind to say, wow, right? I thought I understood how difficult this was, but this is to another level, right? And being a fairly small, agile organization, I didn't want to be there that goes, you know, we deal with coaching and mentoring, you know, food and hygiene products is not in our sweet spot. And so, sorry, we're not going to do this. And we quickly created partnerships with the likes of M&S and Aldi. And we got to a position where on a weekly basis, we were delivering almost a ton of food through surpluses that we were receiving, and then sort of, you know, boxing up and getting out to the families that needed it. And, you know, that in essence is who we are, what we do, what our bread and butter is, but also, I suppose, what we've ended up pivoting into. And, you know, just to echo what Sophia and Lorraine said, that it doesn't feel like this is coming to an end anytime soon. And it feels like, you know, we've got another sort of segment that we will be working with and working on over the coming sort of months and years. And, you know, it's kind of cool, right, to be there to just support people. And Sophia, you said it a moment ago, right? We've all been in times when we've needed some sort of bunk up. And, you know, I feel that we're in a position where we can give just an arm around and a bit of a bunk up to others. So that's what we're doing.
That is, yeah, thank you, Nilesh. That is just amazing. You know, I agree with you. Sophia said it. You know, there will be times when we need help, but there's also times when we can help. So it's just, you know, I am really touched by some of the stories you just said. Thank you, Lisa. Do you want to tell us about the Star Academies and the work that you've been doing as well, please?
Yeah, thank you, Edgar, and to Lorraine and to Sophia and to Nilesh for their stories, as you say, very heartwarming and overwhelming in terms of the kindness during this challenging time. In terms of Star Academies, we have 29 schools across the country, from London to the Midlands, to Lancashire, to Manchester and Yorkshire. So spread right across the country. STAR represents our values, which are service, teamwork, ambition, and respect. And we try and play out those values in every single behavior that we have in schools. We promote them with our young people, and we try and exemplify them as adults when working with young people as well. Our mission is to nurture today's young people and inspire tomorrow's leaders. So that echoes what Nilesh was saying around the fact that we are here to inspire tomorrow's leaders. And with that, we have 3 key priorities that run through every aspect of our work. The first priority is keeping our pupils safe, happy, and well. Our second priority is achieving academic excellence, as we know it can open doors for our young people. And the third priority is looking after our community. Before COVID, we have always kind of done some social action campaigning. We've always tried to raise money. We've introduced what we call a STAR diploma, which encourages pupils themselves to lead initiatives and raise thousands of pounds each year to support different worthwhile causes that they come up with themselves. Around Christmas time, we try and get all our schools to embrace our winter gifts programme, and pupils themselves will deliver hampers to care homes and hospitals. They'll also sing for the elderly. Around harvest time, we also collect food and we deliver to the most needy in our local communities. When COVID struck, our chief executive took it to another level, and he recognised that our communities would need so much more. And it was at that point that he quickly set up the Star Academy's coronavirus appeal. We already have a Shine charity, it's our sister charity. And so with that, we decided to launch what was called the Star Family Hubs across the country in the towns and cities in which our schools are located. So through these hubs, we made a decision to make some pledges to our communities. And those pledges were that all members of our staff family will be fed, that we will provide food vouchers or food packs to family members who cannot afford to feed themselves. We would also provide hygiene products to help maintain good personal and home hygiene, and that we would provide toiletry and home vouchers to families who are in financial difficulty. That we would provide PPE packs to our local care homes, our GP surgeries and hospitals to keep our families protected. And that all our staff families will be safe and warm in their homes. We also agreed that we would provide advice and support for those in fuel poverty, and that all STAR pupils who are learning at home will receive a good quality of education. We also agreed that they would be able to access technology and stationery to any pupils who do not have the resources in their home. We also set up a national telephone helpline called Starline to support parents requiring advice about home learning. In addition to Starline, we also had a weekly YouTube Star Live broadcast, which talked about many issues facing families and parents over the course of March until the end of August. We've decided that we will keep our hubs open and ensure that pupils who attend our schools are safe, fed and looked after. Now, we also, in terms of our family hubs, they include not only pupils in our schools, but their siblings, their parents, their grandparents, former pupils of STAR schools and their families, and any residents that live within a STAR school neighbourhood, including STAR staff, governors, volunteers, and their families. Our STAR Coronavirus Appeal website is still live, and to date we've raised over £50,000 and received many generous donations across the country. We've also been very grateful from the donations of a wide range of local and national retailers, including Morrison's, Asda, Tesco, Fairshare, Britvic, and of course, indeed, yourselves. And I think we've totaled it up in terms of the products at the moment are in excess of £250,000. Since the pandemic started, we have distributed over 20,000 hot meals to vulnerable families across the UK. Over 100 care homes have been supported. Over 8,000 family food packs have been distributed across the UK. And each food pack supports a family of 5 for a week. We've delivered over 14,000 pieces of PPE equipment to hospital and care homes across the UK, and over 3,000 items of equipment have been distributed to help vulnerable children overcome barriers to learning. And over 10,000 hygiene packs have been distributed too. So it's without saying, as everybody else on the panel has said, that the demand for this service has increased significantly. And we recognise that it's not going to end anytime soon. We recognise that when the furlough scheme ceases, we anticipate the demand will increase even further. So for now, we're saying that our STAR family hubs will remain a permanent feature for all our STAR schools.
Thank you for that, Lisa. What I'm going to do now is just going to unmute everyone. So hopefully everyone can see everyone. It's I just put it open. And for the next question up, you know, everything that each one of you said has been amazing, and I think it just goes to the point that, you know, we all expect it to get worse. I think, Sophia, you're saying, you know, when the furlough scheme comes to an end, there's going to be more people, you know, in difficulty. We had a story where, you know, a young family, obviously, well, during the lockdown, I think he was a builder by trade, and so he didn't work. The mother got put on furlough, so was getting 80% of her salary. They then went back to work. He's lost his job. She's then been changed to, I think, 2 days a week, so it's only 40% of her salary. So going from 2 salaries to only 40% of one creates a real strain on how they can live, and that's a story that we're hearing. The next question we had for the panel, and what I'll do is just open it up, and I think I know, but it's, again, given what we've said about what we expect, this is about raising awareness for people who are watching this. So, you know, what is it that you and each and every one of your organization will need going forward? Because we're not just trying to raise awareness, we're asking for people to think about donating product, be it food, be it hygiene. It's really trying to bring that awareness that there is a demand that we need to fill over the next 3, 6, 12 months. So I'll open it up. I won't point to anyone. So if anyone wants to start, please raise your hand. Go on, Sophia, go on.
I'm always happy to have opinions. Sorry that I dropped off the call just then. There's a helicopter circling above my house, and it does funny things to our internet connection. So apologies for that. But I mean, I think so. I mean, it's in lots of ways. It doesn't. The lockdown hasn't changed the kinds of things that families are needing in our experience, although it has intensified that need and extended it. But you know, we are constantly chasing our tail and trying to source more of the essentials, the nappies, the toddler toothpaste, the baby toothpaste, the sanitary towels, those things that are not exactly luxuries, but are so important to how people feel about themselves. We had a parent who was telling us they were washing out nappies, trying to kind of use them and reuse them again. And I mean, that's just an awful thing as a parent to have to do, but also terrible for the child's own health and well-being. So yeah, all those basics are really, really important. And I mean, I think that is something that we've seen across the country. We did a survey of baby banks around the UK, and 80% of them also talked about those basics being really, really critical. But I suppose I didn't want to answer this question without also sort of putting a bit of a stake in the ground that, I mean, it is kind of astonishing to hear collectively what our organisations have done, the level of demand that we're weathering and the amount of need out there. But I think we really, really need to be very clear that this is a sticking plaster. Yes, people need these essentials right now, but actually what they need is decent income that comes from proper wages and a benefit system that is actually a safety net that pulls people back up rather than dragging them further down. They need jobs that pay, they need housing which is affordable, and we need to end the poverty premium that mean that the same products that rich people pay for are costing poor people more. So I just really wanted to kind of have that to frame the answer to this question about what is it that people need right now, because actually yes, these people need these things right now, but I think Lorraine said it, people should be able to afford some of these things themselves, and the economy is clearly not working for everyone at the moment, and we need to frame all of our work in that context, I think.
Lorraine, you wanted to say something?
Yes, certainly, and I completely agree with that. The Trussell Trust very much campaign at Westminster for an end to food poverty, but actually what that means is an end to poverty. And it's been quite shocking to hear some of the discussions that have gone on, whereby, you know, we've actually heard politicians admitting that actually that people don't have enough money to live off of, which we've all known for a long, long time. But because of COVID, in a strange and horrible way, it's actually thrown all of these issues into the limelight, and people can actually see very up close and real what this means for thousands of people. But this has been happening, I suppose that's my other stake, this has been happening for so many families for so many years, and that's crossing political divides as well. So this situation is, just like Sophia said, intensifying those needs. And exactly the same, you know, we're a sticking plaster. We don't want to be here as a food bank in 2020. You know, we work passionately to see an end to food banks. And I just wanted to flag up that our local council are just starting, which they were going to do prior to COVID, but is excellent that it's happening now, a food partnership network, where the council are coming together with charitable organisations to look at the issues behind this. So some of the issues for us locally are that people don't have good access to reasonably priced shopping. So they can't actually walk sensibly to a supermarket where they can buy reasonably priced food. I can drive to my nearest Aldi's and benefit from that, but there are folk living in Midway who can't walk to a supermarket like that. So as Sophia said, the needs are actually huge, and they're big issues that need sorting, but getting down to the level where we're working at, we need food, we desperately need help with toiletries, and we so appreciate the support. Since COVID, we've been spending £700 to £800 a week on food, so you can imagine what that's going to look like over the year. Prior to COVID, we didn't spend any money on food. Midway Food Bank was formed in 2011, and they've never spent money on food. So the reason why we're spending money on food and why I'm accessing all sorts of grants is just to make sure that we can keep up with the demand. And we have been hugely supported, like others of you have said, by some of the big corporates, Tesco's, Morrison's, Asda's, but some of that has come to an end now. Some of the emergency grant funding has come to an end, and yet the need is still huge. You know, and we're looking to work out how we foot that bill for the rest of the year. But I was just going to say, you know, we have conversations with people on the phone who call up, and we kind of go through a list with them. We check whether they have dietary needs or allergies, or whether they're vegetarian, or any particular religious reasons for what they can or can't eat. But then we always ask them whether they would like some toiletries or cleaning products. And people are, you know, they're often overwhelmed that we will offer a specific type of baby milk, which we will go and buy if we haven't got it, you know, particular nappies to help them out as well. But also toiletries. And I was really touched the other day by a lady who said, she said, well, I don't mind if it's male or female deodorant. And I just thought, you know, I want you to have the dignity to choose which deodorant you want. Why should you have to use the same deodorant as your husband, your partner, if you don't want to? And everybody has a choice, obviously. But I was just really touched by that. So there are just people out there who are so extremely grateful. I just wanted to read you a little quote from a mother. Actually, it's from an agency who said, we had a parent call us this morning to thank the food bank for the food that she received today. And that would have included toiletries, cleaning products, nappies, etc. The mum was very grateful, and she couldn't believe the variety of items. She was over the moon and in tears, and said this would really help her out. She also said that once she's back on her feet, she will be donating when she goes shopping. And it's just what Sophia said about, you know, sometimes we need the help and sometimes we can give the help. And people are so extremely grateful.
Thank you. Nilesh? Yep.
Edgar, I think when you started the question, you were talking about, you know, what would the message to the listeners be? You're not going to repeat what Sophia and Lorraine said, essentially, in so much as, if I think about almost kind of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right, there's definitely a real need, and it's tragic and it's definitely upsetting, but at least I can say for the people on this call, it's really awesome, right, that you guys and, you know, we're trying to do our little bit. But I wanted to focus a little bit on a bit of your question, which is, what would your message to people be? My message to people would be to start. And what do I mean by that, right? So, you know, I still, as I said, work part-time in banking. And whenever we talk about diversity and inclusion, I get, you know, I'm pretty lucky that I get to do lots of talks. And I always say to people, start, right? And what do I mean by that? I think, you know, I'm real proof. This time, you know, I'm not a Sophia, I'm not a Lorraine, where I haven't been doing this for years, right? Delivering food is something I knew nothing about. Delivering hygiene products, even creating partnerships with companies who donate computers, then creating a partnership with a local IT company who take the computers, refurb them and get them out to the kids who don't have access. That all started because of a desire to start. And so I think, you know, essentially what my message to people would be is that find something that you're passionate about, find a cause in your local community that you can get really behind. Because ultimately we all have two choices, right? You either go, I don't know what to do, and I'm really scared of doing the wrong thing or not doing enough or whatever, and ultimately you do nothing. Or you kind of go, listen, man, I haven't got all the answers, but I tell you what, I'm damnedest and absolute in my desire to do something. And you start, right? And you get to the point where, you know, somehow, you know, again, to talk about banking, you know, banking, the guys in banking and finance usually get bad publicity. But, you know, we've got people that are out every single night going out to, for example, I'm thinking of one director who I work with at EY. Her and her family go to M&S to a variety of M&S's in Southeast London every single night. They pick up food, they take it to a local hospice, they take it to a local hospital, they take it to a local children's shelter. I just think people have got an incredible desire to do. So just start somewhere and see how it goes.
The Little Village started by me having a philosophy: start by starting.
There you go. Sophia, yeah. I think after this quote, everyone's just going to be constantly quoting you. So I've already written down 2 or 3 of your quotes.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you all know that with the Hygiene Bank, it all started with a WhatsApp to family and friends.
Yeah.
And that's all
Yeah.
it needs. All it needs is one
Yes.
WhatsApp, and 2 years down the track, it's a different organization. I'm really...
I was just going to add to that. The Trussell Trust started by a guy who stored some food in his garden house in his garden in Salisbury. And he had one phone call from one mother who said, I can't feed my child tonight. Can you help me? And that's how he started. And now there are 1,200 little food banks across the UK.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Do you know what it did? Oh, go on. Go on,
Sorry,
Sophia.
I've realised that my our Little Villages stock managers will absolutely kill me if I don't put in a special plea for one particular donation that we're perpetually short of, and I'm pretty sure it's other people will have it as well. One of the big issues, particularly in London, is the intersection between poverty and race. And a lot of the families we support are not white. A lot of them are black or Asian, and a third of the families we support have Afro hair. And when it comes to hygiene products, I've learned this since setting up Little Village. When it comes to hygiene products, shampoos that is designed for white people's hair is really not at all good for people with Afro hair. And I would love us to have a much, much, much more reliable and extensive supply of products that are appropriate for Afro hair products. So if anyone is listening and is wanting to donate, please, please, please send us some of those products. I've done my job for my stock managers now as well.
That is brilliant. Do you know what? This has been an amazing panel, and believe it or not, we've been going for about 55 minutes, and and I'm sure we could continue to go. We'll try and wrap up. So in terms of the Hygiene Bank, and we covered hygiene products, what have you found that the Hygiene Bank has delivered for yourselves as an organization, and what else should, again, a plea to those listening for how they can help the Hygiene Bank as well? Some of the stories that you've had, I guess, over the past 3, 4, 5 months. If anyone wants to jump in.
I feel like I'm always jumping in. I can't help myself. I think one of the things, I mean, Lizzie and I met a little while ago, I think probably about 2 years ago now, just when things were really starting to take off for the Hygiene Bank. And one of the things I said to her then, and I still think now, I really love the Hygiene Bank's model of this being based in the community, by the community, for the community. And I think, as Nilesh and in fact others have said as well, this people want to help, right? And actually part of the job of organisations like the Hygiene Bank, like Little Village, like the food banks, is to make it easy for people to help each other, right? Sometimes you think about poverty or child poverty, it's so big and overwhelming, you don't know what step to take. And actually just by, I think, Hygiene Bank being based in communities, it's such a brilliant, easy step to start. That actually, that I think is an incredible, powerful bit of of your model, and we love working with you guys. So thank you for all of your support.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just, if it's okay to say, Edgar, I'd just like to say we've been so impressed with the immediacy of the response that we've had from the Hygiene Bank. So I sometimes just put a little post out on Messenger to say, do you have any, you know, and it'll be a list with size 6 nappies or baby milk or shampoo or conditioner or razors, and it often appears within 24 hours. So it's just the immediacy of the response. And I don't know whether they're going to watch this. Just a huge thanks to Olivia and Emma at the Hygiene Banks near us in Midway, who, you know, throughout all that lockdown period as well, when people were, you know, just worried to even leave their houses, they were coming over with immense amounts of stock. There was a lovely story one day where poor Emma's whole front of her house, her driveway and her garage was stuffed full, I can't remember what it was now, with Mr. Muscle or something like, you know, one of the cleaning products. She'd ordered it and she just hadn't quite realised that it was all going to come at once and how much there was going to be. And just the way in which, you know, she just rallied around with some help and got that out to us so that we could get it to clients. I would just say, you know, in terms of poverty and the virus as well, the two things just go so closely together, obviously. We're seeing many people who are living in multiple occupancy homes in pretty dreadful conditions, where, you know, they're living in one room with 4, if not more, in one room, sharing a bed, 2 adults, 2 children, sharing bathrooms as well. So the need for people to be able to access soap, to wash their hands, and cleaning products, to be able to clean down the sinks that they're sharing, the door handles that they're sharing, is such a real need. Although the bigger need, if you like, is to sort out that housing problem. Well, we won't get into that. That's a whole another panel. But just to show, you know, that those products that were sitting on Emma's drive from your lovely Hygiene Bank are so vital in the fight against this virus, and, you know, people's just fight for daily living, really, and for decent, dignified living. So we're extremely grateful to you all.
Thank you for that. I'm going to pause it there because we could go on for so much more. And I appreciate everything that you've said. And you know, I've been making loads of notes throughout this panel session, and the things, and you know, a lot of things that are being said is absolutely hit the mark. Things like the sticking plaster, things like, you know, at the start. But what I wanted to also say is that what we're trying to do here, especially with National Hygiene Week, and it doesn't have to just be National Hygiene Week, it is something that continues on. So you talked about the community. Absolutely, we if you give local, we help local. That is our motto. But what we're trying to also do is make a conglomeration or a cooperation of organizations to try and address this poverty issue. And I think that's what we need to start to think about, that we need to work together to solve this poverty issue. Obviously, the Hygiene Bank is very focused on hygiene, but it's trying to address that underlying issue, which is poverty. And I think we have other panels that are going to be taking place. So just to wrap up, I wanted to thank people who are watching this panel. I want to thank our participants, our panel participants, Lisa, Nilesh, Sophia, Lorraine. But it doesn't end there. I think to those people who are watching, it doesn't end there. Obviously, this is being shown during National Hygiene Week, but think about what you can do. Think about what you can do for, as people have already said, to donate, to start that, make that first step to start to help. Through National Hygiene Week, we've got quite a lot of things that are planned. So one of the things we're doing is a social media campaign, which is #BogOff. And the idea is try and find that buy one, get one free, or 3 for the price of 2, and donate that extra free product. But take a photo of yourself, hashtag it on your social media as you donate it. And we want to raise that awareness, try and get that reach. What did I say at the start? Make it as aware as possible to as many people as possible. We have other panels that is going to be taking place. So have a look at those. That's on our website during National Hygiene Week. You will be able to download the movie I, Daniel Blake, which was the movie that really kicked it off for Lizzie Hall, our founder. And it's just a moving movie. If it can get that same impact, then please do watch it. There is some other fun stuff we're doing. We're doing a couple of quizzes, so please join in. But also in terms of raising awareness, we're doing radio interviews, TV interviews. And I think the key thing is that we'll continue to ask each and every one of you who are watching to raise this awareness, speak to the people around you, speak to your families, and trying to get this social movement to try and get a position where we can help solve this problem together. So thank you, everyone. And I really do appreciate your time.